All right. Well, hello and welcome to the December Chancellor's Town Hall. My name is Joe Lawless, and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at UW Tacoma. And we are kind of punting today because YouTube's streaming service is down this morning. So our typical method for doing this has failed us. But as we have all learned to do during times of COVID, we're scrambling. We're making it work. I'd make a Russell Wilson reference right now, but this week it's not too good. Thanks for participating. We do it this way to try to keep everyone safe. And thank you for joining us today. So we start our meetings at UW Tacoma with a land acknowledgement. So I'd like to start with that. So we recognize that all of us at UW Tacoma learn, live, and work on or near the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people. In particular, we're situated on the traditional territory of the Puyallup. As people on this occupied territory, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the land, the ancestors who have cared for this land since time immemorial, and all our Indigenous connections today. We also have the responsibility to acknowledge the histories of dispossession and forced removal that have allowed for the growth and survival of this institution. In light of this history, let us take active efforts to partner with our Indigenous community members and neighbors as we continue our work together as a community of learners, leaders, and educators. So how this is going to work, we're going to keep this the same format as before. So if you have questions, email them at any time to uwttownhall@uw.edu. And if you happen to be watching this recording later, you can send emails to that address as well. And I will try to get answers to your questions back to you. So we have 3 people on the Zoom call with us this month. We have Chancellor Mark Pagano, Vice Chancellor Mentha Hines-Wilson, and Executive Vice Chancellor Jill Purdy. So Mark, would you like to kick things off?
Sure. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. And thank you to all of you as well for being flexible. I mean, flexible is the word of the day. And thank you for our technical folks to get this up with 10 or 15 minutes of notice. So I want to make sure you all know, I talked about this last month, but it's worth saying again, how thankful I am for UW Tacoma faculty and staff. You really stepped up in an unprecedented way in response to these 3 crises, the COVID-19, the economic downturn, and the extreme social injustice. Likewise, our students have stepped up too. They've done remarkably well. And they've made good progress, and they're about finished with their 3rd pandemic quarter. Everybody has done a great job, and they're extremely resilient. Now, all that being said, I realize folks are getting weary. I am getting weary. We're getting more weary by the day, more frustrated by the minute. But what I have to ask you is to remain patient and diligent in UW Tacoma fashion. 220 will be behind us soon. And we can look at the new year with promise, of a new vaccine, a clearer path towards more normalcy. This helps me, and I think it should help all of us have the renewed energy to look at the future and to continue to fight through this economic crisis and for social justice. So as I said before, please continue to do whatever you can to ease the stress and the hardship for those around you, first with those in your family, your immediate family, your extended family, your neighbors, and those students and faculty and staff under your care at UWT. And remember that each one of you needs to take care of yourself first. If you're not healthy and well taken care of, it's going to be difficult for you to take care of these others. And I will commit to do that myself. I will take care of my family, my extended family, and my responsibilities to my neighbors and to this campus and the leadership team. That's my responsibility, and I take that very seriously. So look for a special message from all of us next week, thanking you for this quarter in your work. So please remember just how important each one of your individual roles are. We couldn't do this out each one of you. We will beat this crisis, but we won't beat it alone. We'll beat these crises together. Each student that we can help guide to the finish line sets them up for a much better future. And not only for them, but for those around them, for their families. You know, this COVID-19 is very infectious, but you know, an education is also infectious. A UW Tacoma education is infectious to not only our students, but it infects their families and others. So let's all do what it takes to beat this pandemic and infect people with education for the future. So what do you need to hear about today, or what do we need to tell you about today? Well, there are a few things. I do think for once we'll get done early though, but we have a couple updates that I'll give you and a couple short updates from the other two vice chancellors and executive vice chancellors we have on the call. So first, let me tell you a heartwarming story, and hopefully some of you have seen it. It's featured on the UW Tacoma news page right underneath our feature story. And that, you know, the governor gave us not it wasn't a lockdown, but he gave us a very strong request to stay local, to not travel if we didn't have to, not to have large gatherings over the Thanksgiving holiday. And of course, we expected our university community to do that as well. So what about all those students living in Court 17? They were kind of hunkered down here on campus during the 4-day holiday break. So to help our students through that ordeal, Mentha Hines-Wilson, being the student advocate that she is, she and her team came up with a suggestion to try to feed all 120 of those students in Court 17 with a full spread Thanksgiving meal. You know, and we found a way to do that. We used some discretionary funds from one of our donors to actually purchase that meal, and she and her staff made sure those students got access to those meals. And I heard it was a fantastic experience. Our local company, Zitco, the X Group, put together a fantastic meal for our students. So there are some good, happy things happening in the background. So thank you, Mentha, and your team for doing that. Also, some people have asked about the Vice Chancellor for Finance Administration search. Well, that is temporarily on hold. You know that we did bring in a consultant who helped us review that position and look at it. They interviewed constituents around campus. We have that report. The intention is to look at that again, but about the time we received that report, we also got word that the president and provost are willing to look at the connections, the administrative connections of our campus with Seattle during my transition as chancellor. So we need to kind of go through that process first, and then we'll get back to the search for the vice chancellor for finance administration. Well, hopefully you saw my message yesterday giving you a brief budget update. So about the time of the last town hall, we received the provost annual budget report outline. We get this every November asking us to prepare our budget projections and our budget planning for the coming fiscal year. So we got that for the next fiscal year 2022, which starts next July 2021. And that is the beginning of a 2-year new biennium. And because of the uncertainty in what is going on in our state, and that continues, if you were paying attention to the news about an hour or so ago, our governor came out and did another news conference where he's extended his restrictions for 3 more weeks past the holiday time into the new year. He's also committed $50 million more to small businesses in our state, since the federal government has not provided that yet. So there is a lot of unknown with our state's financial position, and now we've committed $50 million more, which I'm really glad he is. Our businesses are hurting, but that continues to make the situation precarious. So the provost asked us to do 2 things for planning for this. The first thing that he asked us to do, this is the Office of Budgeting and Planning at UW Seattle, is to model another 5% decrease in our DOF, that's our Designated Operating Funds supplement. And what that means in lay terms to all of us is our state allocation. We need to model very technically, another 5% reduction in those funds. The state allocation is about $25 million, so 5% more of that is a little over $1.2 million that we need to model in a detailed fashion for how we would reduce our operation if that indeed became the case. And recall, they asked us to do approximately the same thing back in September, and we were able to do that centrally because we had just set aside some operating funds that we were getting ready to spend on new initiatives on campus to help with retention and enrollment and those kinds of things. So luckily, our planning from the previous year, our reallocation planning served us well, and we did not have to make any layoffs or furloughs. We had that ready to set aside. Unfortunately, we don't have that now. That was essentially all of our margin, and now our expenditures are just about exactly with our expenses. So we need to do that modeling the provost has asked us to do. So that's the first step. The second step is the provost asked us to model 5% reduction in all fund sources. So not just our state allocation, which is $25 million, but all fund sources. So that's in our tuition income, that's in our summer revenue, that's in our research grant revenue, our auxiliaries, on and on, all the various types of revenue. Well, if you add all the various types of revenue together at UW-Tacoma, that's close to $97 million. So that's almost $5 million that we need to model in reductions. That is a whole different story, but we've been asked to do that, and we must do that. So what we have decided, what is best for our campus, is to continue on the path of what we were already doing. We were modeling 5% and 10% of our state allocation. So all administrative and academic units are modeling about $2.6 million worth of reductions. So we'll take those reductions and then additional central reductions in other areas and in new money that we'll receive from increased tuition, and we'll model that in the provost report. So we're asking everybody to do their part, continue the work, which we had started back in June. We really got that going when the fall semester started. So continue that work, and everybody's report will be due to the finance office on January 11th. I believe that is the date. So one more thing, while we're talking about state legislature, let me tell you that this is also the season when we do our legislative advocacy, and that work has already started. We advocate for not only the UW, but we also advocate specifically for UW-Tacoma. And I know that 2020 is like no other year, but we still have to do due diligence, and we still need to make the state legislature aware of what our needs are. Now, we're being reasonable and not increasing our needs, but we need to be strong and advocate for what they already were expecting to fund for our campus. So myself and David Westbrook are working away already. We've sent congratulations to all the new legislators who just won their race, and a congratulations to those who are continuing. We asked them to please attend a legislative event, which is this Thursday night, where we'll talk to them about what our priorities are. That same day, early in the morning, I will be participating with my other presidential colleagues from the two-year colleges around Pierce County. We'll be doing the same thing to the same group of legislators on Thursday morning, and then that evening, UW-Tacoma will be doing it ourselves. We have two primary things that we're asking for. We're asking our state to stay the course. The funding that we have, that $25 million, we really need that. We believe that education is the great equalizer. It will help us rebound as a community, especially here in the South Puget Sound. And I don't think anybody here at UW-Tacoma will be disappointed if they maintain their funding and that work that we do for reductions is ignored and they don't ask us to do a reduction. That would be the best news ever. I don't think anybody will complain about that. So that's the first thing, is to maintain the course, keep our funding solid, keep the state promise grant solid. We need the students to be able to have access to that grant, to be able to attend college. And then our second priority is our new building, our Academic Innovation Building, which is now named Milgard Hall. That building will house our two brand new programs that just got approved last year. It will house, that's civil and mechanical engineering. It will house general purpose classrooms for the entire campus, which we badly need. It will house expansion of the Milgard School, which has been out of space for a couple of years. So in our high demand areas that are growing fast, it will allow additional space for those. And it also will be the home of our new Global Innovation and Design Laboratory. Now, when I said we wouldn't ask for anything new, this is really not new. The way that works is pre-design funding came 3 years ago when they allocated $500,000 to do the pre-design. Then last year they allocated $4 million to do the detailed design, which is underway now. And then it's expected that they would then allocate $36 million this biennium to actually build that building. And we've done our part. Our part was to raise $10 million in philanthropic funds to supplement the 40, and that will be a $50 million project. And we are that close to being done with that. We're about 9.6 or $7 million, and we'll have that work done before construction begins. So those are our two asks, and we're posing those as really an equity issue. We need access for our South Puget Sound students to these degree programs. We need to keep UWT strong and able to support our students, able to support our academic programs. So we're asking that they maintain our funding at its current level and to fund this building. So that is kind of update from my office. So I think I'm going to turn it over next to Mentha, and Mentha is going to cover a couple things from her end. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mark, and greetings to everyone. Hello, UW Tacoma students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends. As I reflect on the year that has passed, I really want to echo Mark's sentiments and his expressions of gratitude. I am so incredibly thankful for all members of our UW community, our on-campus community, our off-campus community, and our stakeholders beyond. This has been a challenging time, but I am ever mindful of the fact that UW has experienced and demonstrated a great level of resolve and resilience. I have a particular soft spot for our students who on a daily basis, sometimes hour by hour, have been really trying to muster the courage and the fortitude to remain engaged. And I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank faculty staff who have had to pivot, who've been nimble and adjusting and making the appropriate accommodations to allow us to have a very smooth quarter. And I hope you all know that within the next couple of days, the quarter will come to an end. So we can say, woof, we did it. And we'll be able to take the time with our family and friends, a bit of respite, and remain hopeful for what lies ahead. And I know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is getting brighter and brighter and brighter. So I'm convinced more than ever of the importance of the University of Washington, Tacoma, not only for our local community, but beyond. The university is recognized as a stellar public institution. You know, we are situated right in the heart of Tacoma. We have transformed that area. We've been successful in garnering the support of our community and continue to embrace a really bold commitment to access and equity and engagement and scholarship for the public good. So we've done a lot in a short amount of time. And looking ahead, it seems appropriate for us to position ourselves for even greater success. So Jill and I have been given the task to take a look at some of those administrative opportunities. I want to underscore, nothing is broken. Nothing is broken. Still, there is room for administrative alignments to improve our processes and practices to benefit students, faculty, and staff. So what might that look like? One example that comes to mind is around the issue of finance and administration. So Mark shared with you that the current search is being paused as we take the opportunity to explore financial transformation in totality. The university, and that means Seattle, Bothell, Tacoma, collectively, is undergoing a redesign of our financial related policies and processes, and we're utilizing new technology. It's a major investment for our campus, and it's a hope that the outcome will result in real time, up to date information. So with input from our finance team and examining configurations, we're examining the configuration of the Vice Chancellor's position. We're looking at the unit and its operations. So that's one opportunity for us to explore an alignment. Another area falls right within the Chancellor's office. And more specifically, that's the responsibility of the Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. The scope of responsibilities and the complexities of that area have grown significantly. So we want to explore perhaps a more formal relationship with the Office of the Provost and to expand the level of communication, two-way communication that's happening between Tacoma and that particular area. So those are just two examples of administrative alignments. So between now and the middle of January, Jill and I will be meeting with various stakeholders, gathering information, serving the various campus entities, and preparing a report. And that report will be a public document, and then that information will go to Seattle. And from there, we're hopeful that we will continue to make things better, enhanced, more efficient, and streamlined, and allow us to be even more competitive, but even more attractive for students, for faculty, for staff, and most importantly, attractive for the next chancellor who's going to assume the leadership of this campus. So those are a couple highlights related to administrative alignments. And now I hand it to Jill to offer her perspective.
Thank you, Mentha. I appreciate it. Hi, I just wanted to take a few minutes to let you know kind of the flip side of what Vice Chancellor Hines Wilson shared regarding this administrative alignment project that we're working on behalf of the Provost and President. It's important that everyone understand that this is not looking at issues that are in any way related to faculty. So it is not faculty code issues. We are not addressing issues related to academic personnel. We're not addressing issues related to curriculum, nor to promotion and tenure. All of those are areas of shared governance that are within the purview of Faculty Senate in partnership with the administration. And some of you may know that there is already a group within a council within Faculty Senate that is working on these issues and has been since last year. The Faculty Council on Tri-Campus Policy, which is chaired by a member of UW-Tacoma's faculty, Lauren Montgomery, has been working through those issues on a tri-campus basis with this committee, which includes members that are elected by faculty members who are the voting members elected by their respective campuses, as well as appointed administrators and other experts who have come in to consult on various issues. That group has a multi-year agenda to address some of the structural challenges and code issues that are associated with our multi-campus university that is neither a branch campus nor a distributed system type of model. And so that work is ongoing. That work is incredibly important. Our Vice Chair of Faculty Assembly, Charan Kayulu, is one of our representatives to that committee, and there are a number of elected representatives from our campus as well. And so for faculty members who have concerns about those kinds of issues, I encourage you to reach out to your representatives regarding structural concerns. Because of the work of this committee, this faculty committee, faculty council, we did form a task force last year for the UW-Tacoma campus to provide input and guidance and to be responsive to questions that this faculty council on tri-campus policy has raised for the campuses to answer. And so that tri-campus steering committee or consultation task force group has provided some input to questions over the past year and and a half, I guess, and will continue to do that in service of the charge of the Faculty Council on Tri-Campus Policy. And that work will move forward through Faculty Senate with respect to code changes, or through memoranda or discussions with the administration, including the Provost and President, regarding issues around shared governance. So that is not related to the work that Mentha and I have been asked to do with respect to this short time frame administrative alignment exercise. It's a different exercise that we are hoping to, as Mentha said, complete in fairly short order here. To make some adjustments that will be responsive to the needs of a new chancellor, and again, make that position more attractive and make our work environment more supportive for everyone. So I just wanted to kind of give the other side of the coin with respect to what we were not doing with that exercise. And with that, I'll hand it back to Joe.
Thank you, Jill. I know that one of the other questions that people have had is related to the chancellor search. So the search for a new chancellor for our campus. And I can tell you what I know at this point, which isn't a whole bunch, but I can tell you what I know. And then what I would say is probably in the next week to 2 weeks, we will be hearing more information. So what I do know, though, is that the search was going to be organized out of the Provost's office. The search chairs have been identified, and I'm sure that the Provost's office will be communicating who those chairs are soon. And the next step is to identify the members of the search committee, and that the Provost is hoping to have that done by the end of the year so that we can launch in January and launch the search for the new chancellor. So that's what I do know. What I would say is I would anticipate hearing more information within the next week or two. And when we do know more, I will communicate that with you. Reminder about the email for asking questions. So if you do have questions, email them to uwttownhall@uw.edu. And I have received my first question here, which is for Mark, and it's kind of a three-part question. So hang on, because I want to get the whole question in. So what are top leaderships, so Chancellor Pagano and Jill Purdy, guiding principles for campus budget reduction modeling? How have these principles been communicated to deans, directors of operations, and faculty? So that's the first question. So top priorities. How do you justify flat 5 to 10% budget reductions across different size and services provided by different units? Second question. And then what happens if units are not able to model the full 10% budget reduction?
Okay, so that's 3 parts. So you'll have to remind me if I miss one of those, Joe. But the first part was guiding principles. Well, when the budget reduction process first started for this fiscal year back in June, a set of guiding principles were given to the UW as a whole, which we shared broadly to campus, to deans. The faculty assembly has also shared that through Sarah's newsletter, I believe. And they were guiding principles that we would also use on our campus. The number one guiding principle was equity. And the next principle right along that was things that help our students make progression. So the important things for our campus are those important guiding principles. They also ask us not to reduce things where you have to do that work and it would be passed on to your neighbor. So those guiding principles do exist. We're using those as we move forward, and they have been communicated. The second thing was about being a flat across all units. We are not doing a flat reduction across all units. The modeling we are doing now has to be across all funding sources. They're asking us to account for a 5% reduction in all funding sources. The modeling we are doing in the units is for a little over half of that. So that in itself shows where our priorities are. We're only passing a half of that on to the administrative and academic units, and we're going to do our best to try to model the rest of that centrally, although it's almost impossible to get that much money out of the central units right now. And for example, we would expect each area to model their reductions in a similar fashion with guiding principles as well. So for example, the Chancellor's office, those areas that report to the Chancellor's office, we've completely protected the Office of Equity and Inclusion. We've protected our Office of Community Partnerships and taken those reductions out of the more central offices, such as the Chancellor's office at large. Now, was there another part to that question that I missed?
Yes, it's the last part, which is
what
what
happens? What happens if an area can't model the? Well, we're expecting by January 11th for each area to do their part. Now, these are reductions that nobody wants, but reductions we need to know what it is that you would reduce if it came to this level. Now, we all, as I said earlier, hope that these reductions don't come about, that there is a federal stimulus package and the state does not have the level of losses that it's projecting right now. We all hope for the future, but I've been asked, our leadership team, our campus has been asked to model these reductions, and we're moving forward. You can read about all this in the message I sent yesterday. There's an actual link to the memo where it outlines these procedures. Thank you.
So the next question I've received is to Mentha and Jill, and you can kind of split up how you answer this, and it is regarding the administrative alignments. And it says, can you share more about the timeline and planned stakeholders' engagements to inform the report sent to Seattle? If the deadline is mid-January, are we accommodating for the winter holidays and planning engagements to ensure that finance and administration voices are heard and incorporated in the absence of a VCFA?
So I'll start and hand it off. And yes, it is a very short timeline, but we are mindful of the fact that we want to be able to hear from as many as we can. So in terms of feedback from finance and administration team in particular, some of that conversation has already happened. There have been conversations that have occurred, and there was, and I believe this is campus knowledge, a consultant who came in and gathered some information. So we've been able to look to the information provided in that document to inform some of the thinking that is happening in this current process. Jill and I have also had a conversation with the Council of Deans. So we've approached that group of stakeholders, and there are a couple others that we plan to attend to. Now, keep in mind, again, this is not wholesale, top to bottom administrative alignments. There are a couple of pain points that consistently have been identified. One has been around finance, right? And then we also know too that, as I mentioned earlier, the area of responsibility within the EVCEA area has just grown. So how do we think about that? And are there ways in which we can enhance our rapport with Seattle? So that would be something that I would offer, and to understand that this is the beginning of a process, like the beginning of a conversation, and we want to continue to pop the hood, look under that, make sure things are all in good order from this point forward. Dr. Purdy?
I don't have a whole lot to add other than to recognize that some of the input that we collect will likely be via email rather than meeting because of the winter break coming up. It's not going to be possible necessarily to meet with everyone in groups. And so we have, as Mentha said, collected quite a bit of information and look forward to hearing from additional voices. You are welcome to share thoughts with us directly via email to either one of us, and we will take that into consideration as part of the data that we're collecting.
All right, thank you. So I don't have any other questions. I was mentioning to Mark before this meeting that I'm on campus today, and there aren't a lot of people here. But the feeling of collective exhaustion is palpable. Yeah, I can feel it from you. Actually, this is because of our modified format for the meeting today. Usually when we're doing it on YouTube, I can't see everyone who's here. It feels good to be here with you, even if it's just on the screen. And I know that people are exhausted. And on behalf of our students, I was talking with one of our students downstairs at Starbucks this morning, and she was expressing her gratitude for faculty and staff and everyone here who has made these difficult times more tolerable. And so on behalf of our students, thank you. And students, on behalf of everyone else, thank you for persevering during these challenging times. So I got one more question that came in. The academic units have been requested to model 2 different levels from state funding from just our GOF. Is this still the work we are focused on for January 11th, or is there also all sources model that we need to model? So some clarification on what you had talked about, Mark.
Yes, we are keeping our modeling just like it's always been. The process we set forth back in June that we talked about again at the beginning of the quarter, that's what we're asking the academic units to continue. So we didn't want to disrupt that work. It was already well underway when we received the Provost letter about 3 weeks ago. So that's what we're asking to do. We're keeping that firm.
Yep. All right. Well, Mark, would you like to wrap things up?
Certainly. I just want to thank everybody again. First of all, I want to thank the technical group, Mark and Josh, and everyone in the background who quickly, we didn't know about the YouTube ordeal until just a few minutes before the town hall today, and you saw the message go out just 10 minutes before. So they very quickly responded and got this up and running, and it looks like we have about the same amount of folks attending today. So thank you, everybody that did that. Thank you to the panelists, and thank you again to all the faculty and staff. I had my advisory board again last Thursday, many community members that support our campus, and they continue to be amazed and so appreciative of the work that you are doing. We take time every time we meet with the outside group to explain to them the diligence that our faculty and staff are going through to serve the students during this uncommon time in our history. So I just want to express that Thanksgiving to all of you, that appreciation. You're doing a great job, and I'm proud to be your chancellor. And I know there's a lot of things going on. Just keep thinking about the future. We'll get through this together, as I said before. So enjoy some time off. We will be available if you need us. Email us, call us, contact us in any way that's convenient for you, and we'll do our best to respond. Otherwise, we'll see you all again soon. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, everyone.